The government is said to be planning university tuition fees over 3 academic years. Beginning next year, Hong Kong visitors to the EU have to get prior authorization. And Russia and North Korea sign a partnership that includes a vow of mutual aid if either country is attacked. Good evening and welcome to TVB News. Sources say the government is planning to raise university tuition fees starting from the 2025-26 academic year, with annual fee hikes ranging between 5% and 9% over 3 years. The plan has drawn mixed views from students and parents. Over the past 27 years, the tuition fees for local students studying at Hong Kong's University Grants Committee-funded institutions have stayed the same. When considering this year's budget address, the government reportedly studied the possibility to increase the fees in phases. It's understood the administration is planning an annual fee hike of at least 5% over 3 years starting in the 2025-26 academic year. Currently, the annual fee is set at $42,100. After each fee hike, students have to pay at least $2,000 more. Secretary for Education Christine Choi earlier said the current fees cover only around 13% of the total tuition costs, lower than the government's target of 18%. Based on that, the average annual cost of a university student's tuition is around $320,000, with the bulk of it, some $280,000, being subsidized by the government. To reach the target 18% fee-to-cost ratio, every university student has to pay nearly $60,000 annually. The education chief said it's the right time to review the charges, and the fee hikes will be phased in while considering different households' financial ability. Lawmaker Lau Chi-peng, who is also an associate vice president of Lingnan University, said tuition fees constitute an important source of funding to support the operation of the universities. He said the government can also consider introducing different fee systems for programs with different costs of teaching, such as history, which may cost less, or dentistry, which is more expensive. Varied views, too, from students and parents.
Compared with all the world's ranking, in Hong Kong's university's level is good, right? Compared with all the mainland China or USA or other country, it's not expensive.
Students in my university were not that capable if they didn't have the scholarships or the reduced fees. We basically needed to have a university degree to do anything. So in that case, I would work harder because it's more precious.
Hong Kong should be like Germany, having education should be free, even for university.
The education chief also said earlier that the Students' Financial Assistance Office at universities will offer more subsidies and loans for students after the adjustment of tuition fees. The European Union will introduce 2 new border crossing measures to all non-EU travelers starting in autumn this year. The EU said the implementation of the measures is a step towards digitalization. Memo Sengai with more.
Starting from the end of this year, Hong Kong travellers will have to adapt to new border measures when they visit the European Union and 4 non-EU countries in the Schengen area: Switzerland, Norway, Liechtenstein and Iceland. The first measure is the Entry-Exit System, also known as the EES, which will be rolled out by autumn this year. EES is an IT system for registering non-EU visitors. Individuals will be asked to scan their fingerprints and have their facial photos taken when they arrive at the border.
This measure is mainly to replace the manual stamping of the passports and to know digitally the length of stay of the travellers entering the territory of the European Union.
The other new entry measure is the European Travel Information and Authorization System, or ETIAS, a travel authorization to enter the EU for visa-free country visitors. One application caters for 30 European countries. It will be introduced in mid-2025. To get an ETIAS, relevant individuals will need to fill out an online form, have a passport that's valid for more than 3 months, and provide an email address. Each application will cost €7, which is around 60 Hong Kong dollars. Once the authorization is obtained, it will last for 3 years or until the applicant's passport expires. Cooper said ETIAS is not a new concept. Similar travel authorizations are required by countries such as the United States, Canada, and Australia. She added the measure is to make the EU a safer place for visitors rather than creating an obstacle.
I know that any change creates concern, and we certainly trust that these two measures will not impact the interest in traveling to Europe.
The EU offers to Hong Kong and Macau, meanwhile, said it will raise public awareness of the new border measures.
The visa-free status of Hong Kongers doesn't change, providing a lot of information on these measures, and including with the government. We will work with the government to make sure people know what to expect, that they're not taken by surprise.
The European Union said many fake ETIAS websites exist on the internet, so members of the public need to be cautious.
Lawmaker Lai Tong-kwok, a former director of immigration, said the new measures will be convenient for tourists. He said the EU is following the world trend by moving towards digitalization. News 9, TVB News.
Russian President Vladimir Putin and North Korean leader Kim Jong-un signed a partnership that includes a vow of mutual aid if either country is attacked. This during a Pyongyang summit on Wednesday, where the North Korean leader also promised full support for Russia's war in Ukraine. The two countries aim to forge a partnership expanding their economic and military cooperation in a display of unity to counter U.S. pressure and sanctions. Tracy Furness has more.
Russian President Vladimir Putin landed in North Korea early Wednesday morning and was greeted in Pyongyang airport by the country's leader, Kim Jong-un. The Russian president was accompanied by his Deputy Prime Minister Denis Mantyryov, Defense Minister Andrei Belousov, and Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov, according to his foreign policy advisor. Putin was then taken to an official welcoming ceremony at Kim Il-sung Square in Pyongyang, where cheering crowds, children with balloons, and an honor guard were part of a lavish ceremony for him. North Korean leader Kim Jong-un rolled out the red carpet for Putin, who was on his first visit to the country in 24 years. Later in the day, Putin and Kim held talks, with Kim promising full support for Russia's war in Ukraine. They signed a partnership that includes a vow of mutual aid if either country is attacked. It's not clear what kind of assistance the deal, described as a comprehensive strategic partnership, would call for. According to Russian state media, Putin said afterwards that security with international issues took up a large part of the talks with Kim, and that Russia would not rule out developing military technical cooperation with North Korea under the deal. Kim was quoted as saying that the agreement is of a peaceful and defensive nature, and he has no doubt it will become a driving force accelerating the creation of a new multipolar world. Top NATO and US officials have described Putin's visit to North Korea as a mark of desperation from the Russian leader. In Washington, D.C., US Secretary of State Antony Blinken told reporters that Putin's Pyongyang trip was a sign of his desperation to strengthen relations with countries that can support his war in Ukraine.
With regard to Mr. Putin and his travels to North Korea, look, we've seen, as you've said, Russia try in desperation to develop and to strengthen relations with countries that can provide it with what it needs to continue the war of aggression that it started against Ukraine. North Korea is providing significant munitions to Russia and other weapons for use in Ukraine.
Tracy Furness, TVB News.
The ex-husband of murder socialite Abby Choi, who had been charged with murdering Choi, has been convicted of more crimes. He was sentenced to 42 months in jail today after pleading guilty to 6 counts of theft and 1 count of failing to surrender to custody. Between 2013 and 2015, Kwang Kang-chi was said to have scammed 6 men into investing in gold jewelry. Kwang disappeared after obtaining the jewelry. He was later charged with 6 counts of theft. While the trial for the case was scheduled to start in 2015, Kwang jumped bail and disappeared again. The court then issued an arrest warrant. Kwang pleaded guilty to the 7 charges after he was arrested in relation to the murder of Abby Choi. Hong Kong's first waste-to-power incinerator called iPark will begin service next year. Located on Shek Kwu Chau Artificial Island, the facility is expected to handle 3,000 tons of municipal solid waste every day and generate power for 100,000 households. The Environmental Protection Department also said another facility, iPark 2 in Zhangchoi in Tuen Mun, will be much larger than the one on Shek Kwu Chau. It's set to handle 6,000 tons solid waste every day. An environmental assessment report will be submitted in the 3rd quarter of this year, with iPark 2's commissioning date aimed at early 2030. The Legislative Council has approved the issuance of parking tickets in electronic form. Starting from the 4th quarter this year, the Transport Department will start collecting the electronic contacts of vehicle and driving license holders. Electronic parking tickets will gradually be issued from next year. Transport and Logistics Secretary Lam Sai-hung said upon the initial implementation of the new measure that the copy of the parking ticket in paper form will be posted to the registered vehicle owner. There will be a specific website and a mobile app for drivers to check their parking tickets and pay the fines. Lung cancer is the most common and the #1 killer in terms of tumors in Hong Kong. More than 1/4 of all cancer patients died from lung cancer. In a joint petition, a patients group and a lawmaker have called for the government's inclusion of the post-surgery immunotherapy for lung cancer patients. This as the relapse rate for lung cancer tops 70%. The Cancer Patient Alliance and lawmaker Jovi Chan said the immunotherapy can cut the risk of relapse by more than half. They said adding the treatment into authorities' safety net not just relieves patients' burden, but also helps reduce the pressure of the public health system over the long term. And that's the news. Thank you for watching.